This is the Coach's Wife Life podcast. I'm Kristen Eargle, your host, a former TV sports reporter and fellow college football coach's wife. I'll go one-on-one with the strong women who are the backbone of college athletics and athletics of all levels. And now, Coach's Wife Life.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
Hey there, I'm Kristen Eargle, and we have an exciting podcast ahead. But first I want to talk about something we all know way too much about, moving. Just the thought of that can bring an unsettling emotion. Well, I found a team that can take that load off your plate. It's D1 Relocation. This group can do it all. They can organize your move, coordinate with a moving company, and a trusted real estate agent. They can actually vet key household partners such as schools, insurance agents, physicians in the area. They can even help set up your Wi-Fi and water. It's incredible. So I've come to know this team, which is actually founded by a coach's wife. I think you should check it out, whether you're looking to move now or in the future. It's d1relocation.com. Now on to our awesome podcast. It is my honor to bring Lynne Duggan on the podcast. Lynne is the wife of David Duggan, the head football coach at Jackson Academy in Jackson, Mississippi. Thanks for being a part of us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am thrilled to hear your story. Let's talk about where you've been. Your journey has been so fascinating. Prior to Jackson Academy, you've been on the college ranks and in NFL Europe. I want to hear about this, but we'll talk about your defensive coordinator's wife over at Kent State. You've had stops at Troy, Arkansas State. You were the interim head coach there. Western Michigan, Southern Miss, North Carolina. As I mentioned, you've been at NFL Europe 6 years there. So when you think about a career that spanned different levels and different capacities, just what do you think makes your husband unique? What makes him successful?
Well, I would say he's a very humble person, which I think sometimes you don't always see in coaching. But and I'm not sure other people would think this, but he's humble and he really doesn't ever want to be singled out or in the spotlight or kind of like having all eyes on him, I mean, he's fine in the coaching sense, but in personal situations, he prefers to kind of sit back and take it all in. He's a practical joker. He loves to play jokes on people and gets quite a kick out of that. But he's very dedicated. He's an extremely hard worker. Which I think is just a must in this business. And he really loves what he does. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're in Jackson, Mississippi. You've lived pretty much everywhere. So where did you grow up? And did you ever envision this life that you now live?
So I grew up in New Hampshire. My husband grew up in Massachusetts. And I did not ever envision being a coach's wife. In fact, growing up, we didn't have a lot of big time college. I mean, there aren't any big time college football programs in New Hampshire. So my family followed pro sports, the Red Sox, Boston Bruins, Celtics, Patriots. So yes, I did not know about coaching and what kind of a career it was. And so no, I didn't envision myself.
And then how did you two meet?
We met in college our junior year through my very good friend, or a mutual friend of ours.
What college was that?
That was the University of New Hampshire.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you got married. So how many years have you been married?
We have been married since 1989. So it'll be 35 years this July.
5 years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit you with a lot of questions that you're going to share. A lot of expertise, 35 years as a coach's wife.
Right.
And you have your children and you're a grandmother now. So tell me about your girls.
Okay, so we have two daughters, Olivia and Grace. Grace is our youngest. She's 26. She's a PA, just graduated from PA school it was last August. working in Houston at the for UT Health in a cardiac heart failure center, transplant center. So that's her first, job as a PA, and she has an apartment there, and she's enjoying it. And then our oldest daughter, Olivia, is 28, and she is a nurse. She works at Mississippi Medical Center, and she just had a baby a year and a half ago. So that's our granddaughter, Kennedy, and she's really the joy of our life. I mean, we're so blessed to have her, and we're really enjoying being grandparents.
Yeah, new phase.
Yeah, and they live about 15 minutes from us, so that's
really good.
That's really special. Yeah.
Something I noticed about your career, you've been in college most of your life. You've been interim head coach in FBS, and you made a decision to leave college football and go to Mississippi at Jackson Academy. Walk me through this decision.
Okay. So when my husband took the job at Kent State, which was about 15 months ago, we had just bought this house here in Brandon, Mississippi, near my daughter. She was just about to have the baby. We had moved several times in the last probably 4 to 5 years. And so David decided to take the job, but I decided to split my time between here and Ohio. So we decided to keep the house here with our new granddaughter on the way. I just didn't feel I could pack everything up and move away. So we rented a townhouse up in Kent, and I work from home, so I'm able to work up there and here. But it was more challenging than we thought it would be. I know, and as coach's wife, that we've spent so much time away from our husbands. And I was always fine with it. I mean, when you have younger kids, you're busy, and it's just kind of the way life is. But we found we really missed living under the same roof for, I mean, I was coming back here for holidays or, anything to do with my daughter, and babysitting sometimes on the weekends. And it's about a 13.5-hour drive. So, and we have a dog, so I would take the dog with me, and it start out on Saturday, finish the drive on Sunday, stay in a hotel. And then, I was really kind of going back and forth quite a bit. And neither of us just enjoyed being by ourselves. So it was fine, but unexpectedly, when David was home for spring break this past March, he was approached about the head coaching job at Jackson Academy. And it just, the more we thought about it and the more we talked about it, we just said it's a move, for our family, and to be closer to my daughter and her husband and my granddaughter, and to be together as a couple under one roof. So, so that was pretty much the decision. And it, as coaching jobs do, it happens very quickly. And but it was a very hard decision for my husband. He struggled with it quite a bit. The head coach at Kent is a very good friend of his. So, it was a tough decision. But I would say it's probably the one coaching decision that we've made, not so much based on his career, but based on family and just having more quality time. We're getting old. 60. I'm going to be 60 this year, and he's 60 already. So,
you look phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. But I think you just tend to start valuing your time a little bit more. So it's going well. He really enjoys it.
Wow, incredible. How do you make decisions as a couple? Like, you made the decision, but is this something that you do a pros and cons list? Do you have people that you talk to in your inner circle? I get curious, when you make tough decisions, the decisions that aren't driven by the power, money, or fame, right? Those types of decisions are really hard to make. Those are core decisions. How do
Yeah.
you walk through that as a couple?
You know, we really talk about it together, and we do make a pros and cons list. I mean, we might not sit down and write it out, but that's something you really have to think about. What is the cost benefit? How is this going to impact our lives and the lives of our family? And I will say that all of the coaching, you know, jobs that he's taken, we have made the decision together as a couple. And usually we can come to an agreement and try to make the best decision and then just move forward with it.
What would you say has been the toughest adversity you faced as a couple, and what did you rely on to get through those moments?
I would say probably the toughest time, and maybe more so for me and the kids, was making that move from Maine to Mississippi when he took the job at Southern Miss. He was NFL Europe. He was actually there for 8 years, and that league just was terminated, and he was offered the job. So the league ended in June. So that's not a good time to be looking for a job in football. So he was out of a job for several months, and then towards the end of the season, he was offered a job at Southern Miss, and moving there was tough because we were very close to family. We had both sets of parents living there in that area at the time, aunts, uncles, cousins. Our girls were 4th grade and 6th grade, so that's kind of a tough time to move them. But my dad was sick with Alzheimer's, and so that was kind of a tough time for me to be leaving my family and moving away. And then when we got to Mississippi, my dad passed away. We got there in early July, and my dad passed away shortly after that. And then David's mother passed away that spring. So that was kind of a tough time and a tough year on top of trying to adjust to a new culture and a new, living in a new place. And that was really the furthest we've lived away from family at that point. And so, we just, we found a really great church there. We had not been really going to church prior to moving there. And when we got to Hattiesburg, I mean, that was the first question people want to know, what church are you going to? And my daughter met a friend, and she invited her to church, and her parents invited me to their Sunday school class. And it was just a really positive, it was just a wonderful church. And the kids had such a great experience. And it was very helpful.
So your life kind of changed a little bit with the adversity that you walk through.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, I want to go back to NFL Europe. So you were living there, and then so he would play overseas some. I don't know anything about NFL Europe. So can you fill in? If I don't know, I bet some of the listeners out there, this is really fascinating to me. So how did that work a little bit?
So NFL Europe was a developmental league for the NFL here. So made up of mostly NFL players, but also local players from Europe. But they did their training camp in Florida. And so I'm trying to think of the time frame here. The season, gosh, I should have thought of this. It was a long time ago. But basically he was gone for 4 months, and he was home for 8 months. So we didn't move to Europe.
Right.
Just because when he started, our girls were probably 3 and 5 or 2 and 4. And I was working full time, but we did visit. Obviously, we visited him in Florida during training camp, and then we went over to Europe for a couple of weeks, usually in April. So they would spend 6 weeks in Florida for training camp and then head over to Europe for the season. And he was in Berlin for the first probably first 4 years as a defensive coordinator, and then moved to the Cologne Centurions. So he was in Germany the whole time, but they played in Amsterdam. They had a team in Barcelona, Spain, Hamburg, Dusseldorf, Frankfurt. So it was Scotland. They had a team in Scotland.
This is so interesting.
Yeah.
So you're a coach's wife, but you don't have the benefits of being on staff with everybody right there.
Right.
And, going to the games together all the time. Such a different dynamic to raise your girls in with their dad so far. I mean, how did you navigate that?
That was challenging. My husband had been at Brown University, so we were living in Rhode Island. I was working in Boston, commuting, getting up in the morning, driving to the train station, taking the train into Boston, hopping on the subway, taking that to the office. And so when he left, I really didn't have obviously I didn't have any help.
No.
My parents were living 2 hours away. I had some great neighbors and I had some friends that helped, but I hired a morning babysitter who came to the house at like 5:15 in the morning so I could head into Boston, and she got the kids to daycare, and I left the city around 3 and got home to them by 5. And he was in Europe enjoying life. But on the flip side, the 8 months that he was home, he was home. He was doing everything with the kids. He was coaching their little basketball team. He was taking them to the park, and so it was it was good and bad. But once we kind of adjusted to it was nice, and we got to visit Europe every year.
That is neat. And your girls have some incredible memories from their childhood.
They really do. I tried to take them everywhere, and they were pretty young, but we went to Amsterdam, took them to the Anne Frank house. We went to Paris. I took them to the Louvre and put them in front of the Mona Lisa and said,
"That's awesome.
Please remember this moment.
Soak this in."
Yeah. And they said, "Can we get ice cream?" I said, "No, we need to stand right here."
So what are those few things that you have done that's really contributed to the success that your family has had and he has had in his career?
I think just being agreeable to make the moves and try to make everything as positive as possible. I think we did make choices based on what would be best for his career. Not that we would choose something that would be bad for our family, but I think we just felt, okay, we can do this, we can make this work, and, we're going to make this decision as a family and go and make it a positive experience. Beyond that, I think just handling everything at home. You know how it is. We pretty much handle it all. At least I did, because of his schedule and just being away so much. We just kind of take it all on, and I think that made his life easier, obviously, to do his job and be dedicated and put in the work and the hours. But yeah, I would say I handled most things on the home front.
Another thing that we don't often give ourselves credit for is being the encourager. This job is so competitive, and it's so easy for us too, but our husbands, to compare their journey with another coach. With someone their age, with someone, how fast someone's career is gone, or the breaks this person has gone. Has there been moments where maybe you thought that break would happen with something, or a job you thought you would get and you didn't? You don't have to name what it was, but what do you say? How do you keep your husband encouraged?
Yeah, we have had those moments. I think, we all have. Basically, I've always said you have to look at, if something negative happened or if you didn't get a job that you really wanted, I think you just have to evaluate which things were out of your control. Because honestly, a lot of times, there are factors that are just beyond your control. But also you have to look at what could I have done better? What did I do well, but maybe what could I do better if I had to go back? What could I change? You know, learn from it and move forward. Um, but and I've always said too, which sounds very cliche, but when one door closes, another opens, and that's so true. Especially in this business. And just to continue being grateful for what we do have, I think that's really important. If you can wake up every morning and think of the things that you're grateful for, it helps to not focus on what you're missing or where you could be, or where you might have been. So
I love that. That's kind of my motto. Just being grateful for what we do have, not focusing on the ways that we think we haven't
right.
obtained success through the world's eyes of success. I mean, through what the media, it's going to go up and down, and
Yeah.
we're zeros. I mean, you can't base your worth on this, even though it's so easy to do. You can't.
You're exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so thinking about 35 years being a coach's wife, raising children. I mean, he's gone for a while overseas, and then you've made a lot of long moves. Talk to some of these coaches' wives that are younger right now. They're, 20s and 30s, and they're like, oh, this is too much. This is hard. What advice would you give maybe to your younger self and to the younger ones out there right now?
Yeah. I've seen other coaches' wives do a really good job with making the moves just seem so positive. And I know it doesn't work with all kids. I mean, we had one daughter that was fine with moving and just didn't seem to faze her. And then our youngest daughter hated every single time that we moved. But I've seen, and I'm not sure I did as great a job at this, but I've seen some coaches' wives that have just done so well with making it so fun and, getting, all the gear and, I think too, staying involved, trying to maybe get to the office when you can with the kids, whether it's a quick, I mean, I know they don't have many breaks, but if it's a quick lunch or just to watch practice and, see, the kids at least get to see their dads at work. I would recommend staying as involved as possible. I'm trying to think what else I would recommend. And one thing that's interesting, and I was given this advice by other coaches' wives, and I never followed it, but a lot of coaches' wives prefer to move their families right away in the middle of the school year. And it really makes sense because it gets the kids into the school right away, making friends, as opposed to waiting till the end of the school year and moving in the summer when they're not in school. There's a lot of anticipation that builds up about the move, but we always chose to keep our kids in school to the end of the year, and my husband always went ahead. But looking back, I think I would have done that differently and got them there right away. And I think for us, it was always, oh, I just can't bear to rip them out of school and, going to let them finish out the year. But in hindsight, and this is all personal preference, I mean, everybody does what's best for their kids and their family, but I would almost recommend to get them there right away. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's something I think maybe I would suggest to a young coach's wife that has school-age kids.
I think you're smart there on that one, because I tried it the last 2 times and it actually worked for us, because sort of ripping the Band-Aid off. I went to spring break. We moved to Kansas, and then, and then actually 3 times, Kansas, Memphis, and here. And each time we've done that, it's hard in the moment, but I feel like it's going to be hard either way.
Right.
And then they were able to just jump in.
Wow.
And the teachers usually give them grace. It's kind of like, well, they weren't here for this, but we'll figure it out. It's never like, oh, I'm sorry, you've missed too much. They help you get it caught up. But in terms of the friends, that really helped them not kind of dread that summer. And then, they started kind of getting some relationships going. That was very helpful. But, again, like you mentioned, it's to each their own and what works best for their family. But it has worked well for us the last couple of times, because I always said, I can't imagine moving them. But then the other side for me is I don't do well with all of us living apart. I think that's hard as well. And that's why I'm sitting here going, I can't imagine how you handled this for 4 months. That's almost like a military deployment, and that's a whole other level. And what those wives do. But I'm just saying that's really a long time that you did that. What you mentioned, some of the best advice you received from a coach's wife. Is there anything else? Do you have a coach's wife mentor and the best advice you've received throughout this process?
Oh gosh. Well, I do have a mentor, my friend Karen Pinkham. She's they've been in the business for a very long time. They're now retired and living their best life on Lake Norman and with a boat, and they travel a lot. I think I'm trying to think if there's anything specific that she's just always been very supportive, and I think she truly believes too in making friends with the other coaches' wives and doing things together, and just when you don't have family around, if you can kind of make the other wives your family, it makes a big difference. You have instant friends, and but she would be kind of my mentor.
And then you've been an assistant coach's wife, a coordinator's wife, and now you're a head coach's wife. So talk to me about the importance of head coaches' wives, just really setting the tone on the staff, no matter what size staff that is. I mean, you've experienced that in different capacities. Is there something you've seen done well, and maybe some things that maybe you want to avoid?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've been lucky to be on staffs with some really great head coaches' wives, and just I think it's important to be inclusive, when you're planning things and trying to include everyone. It's always fun when the head coach's wife does some, get-togethers, whether it's lunch or dinner, but baby showers and wedding showers, and just celebrating, other wives for, different reasons. But yeah, I've been fortunate to have a lot of great head coaching wives. So for me, being at the high school level is very different. And I am very sad to say that I have not even reached out to the staff. David's kind of getting the staff together, and I have not reached out. I am asking him to give me the names and the numbers of the wives, and he keeps forgetting. And so it's only been 4 weeks, but
it hasn't been very long for the listeners. I mean, this is fresh off the press that he has gotten this new job and all this. We're going to give you some grace. If your wives are listening out there, we'll give you some grace.
But I will reach out, and I would love to get get some get-togethers planned, whether it's lunches or once a month dinners or something like that. That would be great.
It really means a lot. How do you reach out to the players? What are some of the things that you've enjoyed doing throughout the years?
Throughout the years, I usually like to bake during the season on Thursdays, send in treats. When we have the players over, we tend to have kind of our go-to is lasagna and meatballs and garlic bread. And but when we were at Western Michigan, we did birthdays for the players. And so we had all their birthdays, and I used to get their favorite birthday dessert rather than just sending a cake for everyone. I'd have David get them to write it down, and we do send something in on the day of their birthday. So
That's a good idea. I like that.
yeah, we did that as a staff at Western Michigan, and
That's really
it
cool.
was very nice. Yeah, because
Wow,
the kids
that's
are away from,
Yeah.
they're away from mom and dad too, so they may not get a birthday sweet treat. So
I love that. Okay, so how do you stay connected during the season? Do you guys have a date night, or how does that work for you?
yeah, well, our kids are grown now. We do spend a lot of time with our new granddaughter, so that's something we both enjoy doing. And then we like to go out to dinner. We have a lot of really great restaurants in Jackson, some unique restaurants, and we do like to try different restaurants. So that's probably our date night. We're not big movie people. We have a dog, so we walk the dog, or sometimes bring the dog to the dog park. But that's
Okay, what kind of dog do you have?
Oh, she's a mix of Husky, Great Pyrenees,
Big dog.
and she has a little boxer. We did the I forget what it's called, where we figure out what her breed is, because
Yeah.
we got her from a shelter, and so she's big. She's about 65 pounds.
Yeah.
Sheds a lot, but she's white, and she's a good dog.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so what do you enjoy doing in your downtime? I'm guessing it's spending time with your granddaughter, but what else?
Well, I do CrossFit, so that's something I really enjoy. I started when I was probably about 12 years ago, and I was very dedicated those first several years. And lately, I've been I don't know, ever since COVID, I haven't been as committed to it, but I enjoy it a lot. And everywhere you move, you can always find a great CrossFit gym, and always great people. And so I'm trying to keep it up and, go as much as I can.
What would you say is the most rewarding part to you about being a coach's wife?
I would say getting back to the same thing in terms of meeting the people, all of the people that we've met along the way, and just so many people that have brought value to our lives, and made so many really wonderful friends. So to me, I think that's been my favorite part.
Rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so.
Who is the most famous person in your phone?
You. You probably are. I think I really had to rack my brain on that one.
We're gonna say Krista Johns.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna say Krista Johns. There we go. Got her in there. Okay. We love you, by the way, Krista. Okay. What's one item on your bucket list you have checked off and one left to check off?
Okay. Well, going to Europe was on my bucket list, so we did that. I do have one thing. Doesn't sound super exciting, but I really want to start volunteering. But I work full time, so it's hard to find the time. But once I cut back and head into retirement, I really would like to do some significant volunteering. I feel that that's lacking in my life.
Who are the last 3 people you have texted?
That would be, let's see, my daughter and her mother-in-law on a group text.
Okay.
3 of my friends from college on a group text, and another group text with just our family. So my 2 daughters, my husband, and I.
Nice. The group text. Okay.
Yeah.
Funniest account on Instagram that you follow?
I don't really have a lot of accounts on it. I don't have one.
There you go. And that's a perfectly good answer. You're probably the wise one in the group. Okay. So what about your life impresses your children or has impressed your children throughout the years?
Yeah. I would say they would be impressed with my resilience, just from all the moving and from kind of keeping all the balls in the air and keeping us all connected and just running life, I think, and working and kind of doing multiple things. Yeah.
Final question. If you could relive one day of your life, what would that be?
That would be a day when both my parents have passed away. So I would take a day with them, and having them meet my granddaughter and just spend time with our kids and us as a family. So.
Well said. Thank you so much for this. It's been a joy to get to know you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
For a replay of this episode or previous episodes, visit coacheswifelife.org and follow us on social media at Coaches Wife Life.